There are a lot of unique and complex characters in the game of Blood on the Clocktower, and the goal of this video series is to help you get a bit more comfortable with some of the things that can happen in a game and help you develop your skills as a storyteller so that you can handle anything your players throw at you. Okay, welcome back to another Storyteller Rack-Up video. This time we're doing something a little bit different. The whole goal of this series is to build some example setups and talk about them and give you some ideas about what you should be thinking about when they come together. But this one, I have all of our townsfolk put together. This is for a 10-player game. We have all of our townsfolk ready, plus one of the two outsiders that the Baron will add. Now, in this many player game, there's not this many townsfolk. So we need to replace one with the Baron, we need to replace one with the Spy, we need to replace one with the Imp, and then we need to replace one with the Drunk. So this is looking at, let's say this was the setup, right? There's no Baron, there's no Drunk. There's just all these good players. The good team wins, obviously, because there's no demon in play, but the good team wins because they have an overwhelming majority, they have all the information, they have all the trust, they put everything together. What things do we need to remove from this set of 10 players to make the evil team have an even chance against them? And I think that is an interesting way to look at this problem. So, first thing, someone needs to become a Baron. Who can we take out to become a Baron? Well, we currently have the Slayer and the Saint. Both are which ways of the game ending early in either team's favor. I would say having both of them makes it relatively balanced because there is an even chance of the similar condition. We have an empath, we have a fortune teller, we have an undertaker, same as last episode. But we also have a washwoman, a chef, and an investigator. Now, in a Baron spy game, the investigator isn't actually that helpful. So I think that's going to be our first thing to remove. So, cut the investigator, in comes the Baron. Now, the Baron is going to be adding that extra outsider, which is going to be the Drunk, but we're going to do that last. We're going to look at the Spy, and we're going to look at the Imp first. The Spy is going to be an interesting one, because it will change our chef information, it will change our empath information if they are next to the empath. It would possibly change the Ravenkeeper information. They would know that there is a mayor in play, and they have no way of dealing with a mayor beyond making that mayor look evil and get them executed, because they have no poisoning, they can't double up on them in that way. So, keeping the mayor in play, I think, is important. The Undertaker is the easiest bluff for the Spy, because Storyteller comes out at night, shows off the grimoire, Spy goes, that's the guy that was executed, this is what their role was. So I think that's maybe the best way to go, and if the Spy sees the Undertaker is not in play or is one of the bluffs, the Spy can go, well, that's what I'm going to do for this game. And our last one is the Imp. Now, currently, as it stands, I think things aren't that unbalanced, especially with where the players are sitting. But I think the best choice to remove here is going to be the Ravenkeeper. Now, this gives us an interesting setup, and we have to try and find out where we're going to put the Drunk. We've got the chef that must correctly read the Imp and the Baron together and get a 1. We have a mayor and a spy sitting next to each other. The spy is going to know who the mayor is, and then the Slayer on the other side. The empath is going to verify the washwoman and the Slayer. We'll have to find out who the washwoman is going to pick for this to be relevant. The fortune teller, we also need to find a red herring for them. And then we have the Saint. So, of the things that can become the Drunk, the mayor should never become the Drunk. The chef is a choice. The washwoman is a choice. The empath is a choice. I don't think I would ever make the Slayer the Drunk in this circumstances. And then the fortune teller is the other option. So let's look at what we've got here. If we make the empath the Drunk, we are not doing it to protect a neighboring evil player, which is kind of usually how it will come up if there is a Drunk empath. It's to hide an evil player next to them. So doing it here and incriminating somebody like the Slayer or incriminating somebody like the washwoman, especially if the washwoman hits the Spy, could be really interesting. We can make the washerwoman drunk to confirm the Baron as something goofy. That's always pretty funny. We have the chef. I don't see any reason why the chef information needs to be wrong here. I think showing one pair is fine. We then have the fortune teller. I don't think the fortune teller is too crazy either, because there is not so much info that will already eliminate people for the fortune teller to check. So they will just be randomly shooting anyway and then hoping that they pick something. So I think in this circumstance, making the empath the drunk is going to be the better option, and showing them a 1. With a drunken empath, you can show random numbers. You can show numbers that incriminate a specific person, and you can show numbers that make everyone look good. In this circumstances, I would be showing info that makes the Slayer look like an evil player, because if the Slayer is executed, even if they claim to use the Slayer ability and it misses or whatever, the Spy, if they're claiming Undertaker, can go, yes, this in fact was our evil player. They were this minion or whatever, and able to throw the Slayer under the bus, and all of a sudden we have a good looking Spy and an evil team with -1 player, which I think is a pretty interesting narrative to see play out. We have other stuff like who the washerwoman is going to see and who the red herring is going to be. The Spy, interestingly, can be the red herring because you could register as a good player for this ability. I don't know that that's maybe the right choice to make here. I think I would only do that if the Spy was the most experienced player in the room. I think otherwise the Saint is a horrible choice, because I genuinely think that the evil team has more power here on the board, on load-in. The fortune teller having a red herring in either the washerwoman or the chef is a good choice if you think the evil team is bad and you're helping them out by... I guess the execution on the washerwoman or the chef isn't a big loss to the good team, but it's maybe more convincing. Like you could sell it more easily that you believe that one of them is the demon. I think the washerwoman... So the washerwoman can't confirm the mayor. The washerwoman can't confirm the Saint. It is an outsider. The washerwoman can't confirm the empath because they are the drunk. The washerwoman can confirm the Slayer, which would oppose the empath's info that that player is evil. That could be interesting. The washerwoman could confirm the chef, or the washerwoman could confirm the fortune teller. I think in this particular scenario, I think the washerwoman confirming the fortune teller and being a red herring would be really interesting, because then that paints the washerwoman character as the Spy. And then once the narrative that the Spy is in the game starts to happen, so people start thinking about it, is actually going to help people find the Spy, because the Spy is relatively underplayed. Not many people actually go, ooh, is there a Spy? Does this feel like a Spy game? Is the imp killing all of the really important characters early on? Which is what could happen here, right? That is the one fatal flaw that I've not pointed out so far. If the Spy talks to the imp and says, Gerard over here is the fortune teller, we need to kill Gerard as soon as possible, what happens to the good team's information, right? We've got the mayor, no info, Slayer, no info, empath, drunk, useless, washerwoman already had the information, chef already had their information, fortune teller dead. The good team will receive no information beyond the first night, and the game grinds to a halt. Nothing new is happening, no one is learning anything, and the game does not move onwards. Which is why making the empath the drunk is the wrong choice here. I think the correct choice is actually going to be the washerwoman. Make the washerwoman the drunk, confirm the Baron as whatever townsfolk you think is going to be relevant here. Maybe investigator, maybe soldier, as they are some of the not in play characters. I think are some good choices. Because the Baron, in playing the Baron, you are not beholden to do anything in particular. So if somebody comes up to you and says, I saw you as this character, you're like, that's me, baby, all right. And you roll with it. You just kind of say yes to everything as much as possible, and then get executed, and you're like, well, whatever. No loss, right? And then now with this setup, we've got a washerwoman vouching for an evil player, an empath who has two good neighbors, so you're more likely to figure out the washerwoman is a drunk, then an evil player vouching for an evil player. And we have the fortune teller who is able to scan and check things. In this case, it's going to take 2 knights. I definitely think the chef pair is important here, because if the chef comes out on the first night and goes, okay, it's 1 pair, and if the spy is slow to get the info to the imp that Gerard is the person that needs to die, then the fortune teller can get 1 night of info where they hit something or not hit something, but close out part of the circle, and a second night of info where they get to choose something based on knowing there is a pair of evil players, which lets them potentially split the room even more. And I think 2 nights of information with the fortune teller could be really powerful, especially if they know the empath's information, and you could potentially piece that together at the end of the game. I think this is the more balanced version of the setup, with the drunk being the washwoman, because, and again, you have to be mindful that if the imp does kill the fortune teller, the empath's information is only really so powerful. And I guess that's kind of the main thing. That's one of the good things to consider, is if a player is killed early, especially in a spy game, the most powerful info characters are going to be dying straight away. You have to be paying attention to, can the good team actually do anything after that situation? This has been another storyteller utility video from Cutlass of Board Games. If you did like this, please let us know in the comments, or post some rack-ups for us to have a look at, or any questions that you have so we can go over it and make sure that you're going to be the best storyteller you can be.